want to, kind of go back a little bit now.
So I want to add just one thing, right? And this is very important. Back when I started my career, insurance was not the thing I wanted to do, right? And then found myself in benefits, right? Now I'm in insurance. Now I own an agency. Oh my gosh, right? And then, it's like I didn't want to sell. Somebody kind of pointed it out, and I went back and started selling, and now we're successful. And then there's been other pieces where, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to recruit, train, and develop. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But then I find myself doing it, and we become successful in it. And so the overall arching kind of lesson there is that the thing that you resist the most is sometimes the things that you would be most successful at, right? And I've seen it time and time again in my story, resisting insurance. Now I own an agency, resisting selling. Now that's what I do, resisting training, recruiting, and developing people. And, that's a huge part of what we do on our voluntary work site side. And so, if you're on the fence about, should I get into insurance, or you said, insurance is not for me. Oh no, blah, 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 once again, remember, sometimes the thing that you resist the most is the thing that you'll be most successful at. And God doesn't allow you to move on in your story and in his story, right? His story, history. He doesn't allow you to move on until you master where you're at, right? And so it is a process, but each step of the way can be so extremely rewarding, right?
Absolutely. You mentioned, a few individuals that, helped you early in your career. You mentioned Ashley, you mentioned Chris, Ashley Core and Chris Rinkar, shout out to Vehu, and we want to talk about that as well. Both great people. And you said, hey, look, once you put yourself out there, these people started coming to you to help you along the way in your journey as well. So can you, speak to just, okay, so you majored in, you said psychology, right? You majored in, okay, so you majored in psychology. How'd you get from psychology to working in HR?
I think I interviewed.
Okay.
I think
so you
never really did anything with the psychology thing. It was like I started in business management, believe it or not, and found myself always reading and interested in what my roommate was doing when she was studying, and she would start, talking about all this psychology stuff. And so I ended up changing my major because I liked what she was doing better. But psychology is just the study of people, and human resources is working with people. And I can't honestly say that anything from my degree, other than young people, algebra does come back into my life like every day, trying to find the difference in the percentage. So algebra is important, pay attention. But in any case, I can't honestly say that anything in my degree, lended a hand to my success other than the fact that I had a degree.
Right.
And that's the wonderful thing about starting a career in insurance is that maybe you do have a degree, and that's fantastic, right? But maybe that degree just didn't get you where you wanted to go, right? My husband has a degree in communications. Now, if he could be a baseball commentator or a baseball announcer, he's a fantastic voice for it, but that's not going to pay the bills either, right? That's more like a hobby. So he has a degree in communications, and when I met him, we joke he was selling trash cans. He was really doing like document destruction, but he was selling trash cans. And I said, no, I can't marry somebody who sells trash cans for a living. And so he got into recruiting, and he's a very great recruiting manager for a very large company here in Virginia. However, where's I going? So if you have a degree, that's fantastic. But like I said, maybe that degree didn't get you where you wanted to go. Maybe you're not doing, or maybe you did get into something that you wanted to do and you realized it wasn't all that, it's not all that, right? And you're not really enjoying it. So if you don't have a degree and you're looking for something, it's okay too, because you don't need to have a degree to get into insurance. You do have to pass background check, right? So you can't have any felony charges. But even if you don't have a degree, that piece of paper is something tangible, and it's a highly coveted license that lots and lots of employers are looking for. And so, maybe you just weren't fortunate enough to be able to go to college, and that's okay. We really don't care, if you have a degree or if you don't have a degree. If you can get a license, your license is the license to drive.
That's it.
Literally, license to sell, license to do whatever you want, and people will be calling you, and you'll be getting emails every single day about, hey, we think you would be great, come work for us.
Right,
Like, I don't want to do car insurance, and that's another, like, I don't want to do car insurance. I don't want to do home insurance. Again, resisting, right? I looked at it, but yeah, I'm still resisting that one. I'm not doing it.
No, you spoke exactly to, what I really wanted to highlight is that, where you start really, I don't want to say is irrelevant, because everything that you go through kind of adds to, who you become. But, you can really start from just about anywhere and still end up in this industry and have success in this industry as well. So, you started with psychology, you went to human resources, you were very resistant, to insurance and benefits specifically, but yet you ended up in the benefit side, resistant to sales, which is also interesting because you had success in sales in your early telemarketing career and in your network marketing career as well, but still found yourself, back on that side with employee benefits. It's just amazing how things just kind of come back, full circle. So working for a brokerage, and let's talk about like being a broker, because you're a broker now. You're full service. You're doing the core benefits. You're doing the voluntary, and when we talk about voluntary, we're talking about those other coverages that kind of pair alongside the core, which is the major medical. You're doing everything. What's the difference between someone who is a broker versus someone who is simply an independent agent?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that just kind of varies, on what kind of lines you're representing, right? I know I've seen a lot in the personal lines, personal and commercial lines, which is like home, auto, life, business, commercial insurance. A lot of times there, and a little bit on what we do, you're held captive, right? So if you're an agent that's held what's called captive, you can only represent the products of the company you represent, right? And that was one of my big things, was that if I was to, work with certain carriers, I didn't want to be held captive, right? Meaning I couldn't sell other carriers. Now I do have preferred carriers I do work with, and there are some that I only work with only because of I believe in the company. But they're, being an agent, you can represent separate, different lines. But being a broker, you are basically a representative of every carrier that you represent, right? So you could be an independent agent and a broker, but as a brokerage, I think maybe we just probably bring more to the table in terms of service and consulting, if you will, than maybe just an independent agent. An independent agent writes a policy, sets it, and forgets it, maybe, and I'm sure there's some agents out there that don't, they probably are there to service it, but we, we're probably more along the lines of a consultant as well, keeping people, compliant and bringing tools and resources to the table that an independent agent may not necessarily invest in.
Got you. Yeah, right. So you're going to have the other admin resources that you can kind of back up your clients with. And you mentioned, the consulting aspect. So you're really working kind of alongside them, and you can look at all those carriers and say, hey, do you like this? Do you like this? Maybe this one works better for you, versus if you were solely just the independent agent, you're coming in and saying, hey, look, this is what we got. This is what the option is.
We always show, like, especially on medical, we'll always show all the different options. So that, a big thing of ours is making sure that you're making educated decisions. So we want to show you, that carrier A, the reason why their pricing looks like this is because if you compare it to, carrier B, this is where they're different, and you've got networks and hospitals and access and different pharmacy formularies and in and out of network and, preferred providers and gated networks. There's all these different things that kind of play into how that premium can be affected based on, how robust your coverage is. And then there's alternate programs that are out there as well that you want to look at that bring in different aspects that possibly can affect price and benefit plans. And so we're consulting from an aspect of, this is everything that's available now. There's paths to least resistance, and then there's paths that require a lot of work. So what's important to you, and so we want to make sure they see all the options every year.
You're guiding that decision-making process. Okay.
That's right.
I just wanted to bring that up because sometimes the question gets asked, oh, well, what's the difference between a broker, and an agent, so I wanted to make sure I had a broker to explain that, that difference, so folks, have that idea.